Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Let's Run.com's Track Talk podcast. But this is a very special edition of our podcast. We have so much to talk about. The one Diamond League meet in America, the pre-classic is this weekend. We have a USATF, yet another USATF controversy. We have some good news about the U.S. Olympic marathon trials. We have 17-year-olds running 147. But that's not why this is special, folks. This is special because it's the first podcast of summer. Summer's here, my favorite day of the year, summer solstice has come and gone. And this is the 26th podcast of the year, folks. We're halfway to our goal. Gentlemen, Jonathan Galt, Weldon Johnson, this is Robert Johnson. Welcome to the podcast. Let's pat ourselves on the back. We vow to do it every week. And so far, we're almost halfway there.
Oh, congratulations. I think our commitment level is pretty impressive, even though, you can debate about the quality. I think it's been pretty good so far, but we're trying to improve. But interesting, summer solstice. That's your favorite day of the year, Robert? Really? It's not like Christmas or, Thanksgiving or anything like that. Summer solstice.
That or Halloween. I'd have to go with the summer solstice, I think. I mean, when you live in Ithaca, New York, which has more cloudy days than Seattle, you appreciate the sun.
Halloween, really? I feel like Halloween stops being people's favorite day of the year, like after college. Is it really that fun as an adult?
Well, that's true, but I suffer from age identity crisis, much like I think in 15, 20 years, we're going to have that as recognized, legitimate thing. That we'll have 25, 35-year-olds going back to high school to compete.
He caught himself there. He was going to say something controversial. Yeah, guys, and I do want to pat ourselves on the back. They said it couldn't be done. I issued a challenge. I said podcast once a week, and we've done it. It took to the summer solstice for me to feel like it's summer in New York. I mean, technically, yeah, summer just starts then, but it wasn't until this week. It's warm. People are playing dominoes out in the streets. I don't know if I should get involved in these games. It looks like you make a little money doing this. I used to be a pretty good poker player back in the day. But we should get some feedback from people. All right, we're having a new challenge for second half of the year. Everyone go to letsrun.com/podcast. By the time you hear this, we'll have a form up. You guys can give us feedback. What do you want to have? What do you like about the podcast? What do you not like about the podcast? What do you want to see for second half of the year? Maybe we should have more guests. We kind of had guests and we don't have guests. So what do you guys think?
Well, it's hard to top having me every week as the featured guest, but you're urging them to go to letsrun.com/podcast. I'm going to urge everyone to go to the sponsors of this show. The sponsor of this week is ourselves, letsrun.com/shoes. Very important. This is my challenge for the week. We want everyone to go there. Please review the shoes that you currently run in. It would greatly help us. Our shoe site is kick ass. It's kind of going to be the Yelp for shoes. So you can find out what other elite runners are you running in, what's the cheapest, where you can find a certain brand of shoe the cheapest, where you can find a great marathon shoe, whatever you're looking for, we have it. Letsrun.com/shoes. Please go there and do a shoe review for us. Now that we got the sponsors plugs out of there, let's talk a little bit about what happened last week before moving ahead, spending most of the show probably on the pre-classic. But we got some administrative news we need to get out there first. And let's start with the good news. It hasn't been reported yet, really, unless you're a Twitter aficionado. We're halfway there on the U.S. Olympic Marathon trials, folks. It looks like the women's Olympic Marathon trials will have the gold label status, and therefore anyone finishing top three will be able to go to the Olympics. So we're not going to have to worry about like Shalane Flanagan coming back from injury, getting third place in 2:30 on a hot, hilly course, and not going to the Olympics, folks. So the IAAF is going to let, apparently, the Olympic trials, whether in Japan or the U.S., be rated on the quality of the field, and there will be more than 7 women in the top 200 in the world on the women's side, and that's what the labels you need. That's the criteria you need to be an IAAF gold race. So they're letting you be ranked like that. Normally, the IAAF actually ranks the races based on the previous year's field, so obviously that wouldn't apply because there was no Olympic marathon trials. So kudos to the IAAF for getting us halfway there. We'll see what happens on the men's side because the men will not have 7 runners in the top 200. We actually only have 1 U.S. man in the top 200 in the marathon. That's Galen Rupp, and only 3 in the top 300. Jared Ward and Scott Fowler were like 205 and 210 last time I checked. So pretty good news. I know we're huge fans of the U.S. Olympic Marathon trials. Since we're sending 3 anyways, it should just be the top 3 across the line. So we're halfway there.
Yeah, the goal, we always said gold label status, but that's really not what we wanted. We wanted to just make sure that top 3 make the team. And the men's, you're not going to have 7 men in the top 200 just by the trials. But talking to people who are close to the situation, USATF is still sort of working back channels, trying to get this approved, because you can't just make an exception saying USA can do whatever it wants. It's a part of an international organization. But I think the powers that be at the IAAF, they want to have races that matter. That's the whole point of the world ranking system. So somehow have a system that lets the U.S. marathon trials select its top 3 for the team. So people I talked to seem confident that this would happen. But, until it's done, nothing's set in stone. But I think it is a step in the right direction. At least shows that somebody is listening to, some of the criticism or how things could be improved out there. And we just need the ball to kind of keep being pushed over the finish line.
Yeah, it's a small victory, and I would also give credit to USATF for doing what they said they would and lobbying IAAF to sort of make some changes on this issue. I know we criticized them a fair amount, and there will be more criticism coming for a separate issue in a few minutes, but they've done a good job here. I think they're continuing to fight for what's best for the athletes. It's up to them. They ultimately control how the team is picked, especially with the world rankings. So if this appeal to the IAAF fails, it's their responsibility to pick the team correctly. But I think what they've done so far, I commend them for at least appealing to the IAAF.
Yeah, and if we did go to the rankings, I mean, probably the 400th ranked man would get in, so it probably wouldn't be an issue if they give the men's race more points. Probably any performance would get you in the top 400. But one thing, I understand why international organization doesn't want to sort of think that they're giving Mighty America a special waiver. But the argument that I would make is both Japan and the U.S. pick these races on very difficult courses. I mean, Japan is going to be a really hot race well before these rules came out. So they changed the rules in the middle of the qualifying window and after these races were picked. So if we knew that you had to run a certain time, a much faster time a long time ago, you would have never picked these trials races. So this is a special circumstance. Like the rules were changed after the fact. That would be my argument. But enough praise for USATF, John. Let's get back to what we're used to doing and criticizing the organization. And you published yesterday. I helped edit it slightly, but good work as you. As someone said on the message board, what is Let's Run? It's really just 2 trolls and then 1 journalist. So I guess the trolls are me and Weldon and John, journalism. But some coaches reached out to you, and you've got an expose here on this Pan Am team debacle. Try to explain to people who haven't read the article what has happened. It's so unbelievable that it's hard to actually believe.
Yeah, it's administrative confusion mixed with incompetence, mixed with who knows what. But here's the situation. The Pan Am Games this year are in early August, so about 2 weeks after USA's. Usually USA's is the selection event for the Pan Am Games. This time around, USA's is after the Pan Am, the deadline to submit the team, which USATF said was June 22nd. So they're going instead, the USATF selection criteria posted on the website says they're going to go off the 2019 performance list. So any performance from January 1st till June 10th, 2019 for track and field events, that is how they're picking the team.
Well, that's what they publish.
Then there's an email last week sent out to athletes saying, actually, that's not how we're picking the team. And the email it basically says, when we said the 2019 comprehensive list, we actually meant a list that incorporates all performances in 2018 and 2019. They're basically saying they're picking the team one way, even though they wrote on the website they're picking the team one way, but they actually picked the team the other way. The problem with that is that's not how they pick the team in every event. In most of the events, they picked it off the combined 2018-2019 list, but then in some events, like the men's 800 and the men's 5,000, they picked it off the 2019 list only. And then in other events, the men's 1,500, Johnny Gregoric, who would have been in the top 2 in either list, he wasn't offered a spot at all, even though he would make it under both situations. So then he told me, actually, they contacted him on Tuesday and offered him a spot. So now he's going in the 1,500, but they're going to have to kick out one of the people who they already selected, which is Eric Avila or Isaac Yorks. So it's just a huge, complicated mess. No one knows how they're picking the team. Athletes and coaches are confused. And if you want to maybe get some clarity on it, maybe read my article, because it's a bit more concise explanation. But it's just a huge mess.
Well, John, that was quite the explanation. I think I can do it quicker. They published that they were going to use the 2019 list. They said in reality we meant to use the 2018 and 19 list. And in actual reality, they just picked it however the hell they wanted, and there was no set rules. And now they got called out, and now they're actually going to go back and use the 2018, 2019 list. It's crazy. It's nuts. But at least now they're going to follow a set of consistent rules to pick the team. That also means some people you get the word, hey, you're going to the Pan Am Games. You're very excited. You tell your family, and then what now? Like a week later, they got to go back and say, oh, oops, we screwed up. I mean, the thing was, this was going to go to arbitration. They were going to lose some cases for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now.
Yeah, I feel bad for the athletes because I was talking to Robert about this yesterday, and he was saying, when Weldon, when you ran at the Pan Am Games, that was one of the highlights of your career, getting to represent the United States. Some of these athletes, they found out they were named to the team, and I'm sure they were very excited. They get to wear the USA singlet. They get to go for a medal, not on the global stage, but Pan Am Games, it's better than nothing. And now they don't get that moment, and mainly because of incompetence or a screw up on USATF's part is the way I see it. And USATF, by the way, we have tried to reach out to them on this issue. They have not responded to any of our requests for interviews.
Better than nothing. I think that's a good motto for my running career.
So my question is, Weldon, congratulations on your summary of John's lengthy description of this debacle. Anyways, the question I have, John, is normally when someone makes up the rules as they go along, they're trying to favor somebody. So what do we think this 2018, 2019 business coming out at the last minute was? What athletes did they want to put on this team? You would think that they were trying to get someone on the team that wouldn't have been on normally, which doesn't seem to make sense because if you haven't run fast this year, why do you think this should be on the team? Or it's just really a matter of incompetence. Someone forgot to say 2018, 2019. But then how do you explain them having three different sets of teams, one from 2018? I mean, is it incompetence, corruption, favoritism?
Robert, there's something called Hanlon's razor. It says, never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. And I think it applies in this situation. I think they meant to go by 2018, 2019 all along. That's not what they posted on the website. Someone realized this way too late in the process and said, oh, this is actually what we meant, but it's not what we said. And now it's just a huge mess. I think at this point, the best solution would have just been, okay, they put the 2019, they said we're picking it based on the 2019 list. Just pick the team that way. That way you get people who are in shape, who have been running their times this year. Now we've got people who haven't been running these distances. Like Lena Irby has been named in the 200 and 400, even though she's nowhere near as fast as she was last year. I mean, she was the SEC champ indoors, but she's barely raced outdoors. And we have other people in other events in a similar situation. It's some like Kayla Edwards. She's run 1-800 all year, and it was an indoor race in January or February, and suddenly she's named in the 800 because of what she ran last year. It's kind of ridiculous to me.
And what some people may not realize is the reason why all these athletes want to be on this team, because it really helps your Olympic ranking. So this can help you get into the Olympic Games by doing well at the Commonwealth Games. So,
Pan Am Games.
Excuse me, Pan Am Games. And it's just, I don't know. But then how does Johnny Gregoric not on the team when he would have been on the top of both lists? So I really try, Weldon, John wrote the article and I was editing it. Weldon saw the headlines. Can you try to tone it down? We're always negative. I'm like, Weldon, we have to be negative here. I mean, this is really incompetence. And there's a thread on this in Let's Run. Someone's like, we really just need to clean house and just start anew at USATF. Literally fire everybody and then post the jobs for new. And that sounds crazy, but I honestly think a clean slate, there's so many people ingrained in their positions and the way things have always been done. There's no creative thinking. There's incompetence. And we had this 4 years ago. This is going to end up in court. If I was on the 2019 list and I'm not on this team, I'm irate. And why would you want to do 2018, 2019 list anyways? If you haven't run a time by June 26th, I'm sorry, you're not in tip-top shape.
Well, the deadline was June 10th, according to the original thing. So, but I agree. You have time to run the time if you're planning on running at this meet.
Although, speaking of people who haven't run, and it's June 26th, we're going to have a number of stars making their season debuts this weekend. And this weekend, folks, is a big weekend. Weldon and I will be slogging away at the computers, working hard yet again with a little fanfare behind a dark lit room, probably working on the weekends. But John will be taking an all expenses paid trip out to lovely California to enjoy the biggest single day track and field meet in America, the Prefontaine Classic. John, how does it feel to be working for a company that gives you such amazing perks?
It's great. Honestly, no, it's awesome. I kind of was dropping some hints over the last few weeks. It would be nice to go to the pre-classic, and you guys decided to send me, which I'm appreciative of. It's a great meet. I've been 3 of the last 5 years. This will be my 4th pre-classic. So you get to run, you bump into people, you run into people in bars, you sort of get to hear the word on the street, but then you also get to see a heck of a track meet. And it really is, like, if you look at these distance fields, they're terrific. Sprint fields, very strong as well. I actually don't know how fast the sprint straightaway is at Stanford. I know they ran Pac-12s there a few years, but I have no idea how fast it is. But I'm really excited to see Michael Norman, Christian Coleman, Shawnee Miller-Weibo. I mean, these fields are terrific, as you always. And so, yeah, great. I'm very much looking forward to being out there and maybe drinking a beer or two on Let's Run's dime once the meet's over.
John, are you going to know where to go? This is the first pre-classic. I assume most people know this. Not at Hayward Field. They're renovating the new Hayward Field, or building the new Hayward Field. So this one's at Stanford. John, have you ever been to the Stanford track?
I have, actually. It was summer of 2007, or maybe summer of 2008, when I was looking at colleges. I wasn't fast enough to run at Stanford, but I was looking around the campus anyway. And so I did visit their track, but I've never been to a meet there. So this will be my first time.
Wow. It's one of my favorite tracks for my better than nothing career. John, do you know which bars to go to?
That's actually no. I need suggestions from people. Do we have an equivalent to the Wild Duck or Tracktown Pizza in Palo Alto? Where should I be going? I remember, I think it was last year, I went to Tracktown Pizza and I saw Sifan Hassan and Yomif Kajelcha and Pete Julian from the Nike Oregon Project, and they were ordering pizza the night before the meet. They weren't running at the meet that year, but they were getting some pizza. I thought that was interesting. So let me know what the hot spots are, readers. Either hit me up on Twitter or send an email to Jonathan Gold at Let's Run and let me know where the best spots in Palo Alto are.
I'm kind of worried about the cost of this. I imagine a pitcher of beer in Palo Alto could be like $100 with all the .com billionaires over there. But John, we don't have a preview up yet on the website. I haven't even looked at the fields. Which race are you most excited for, or what do you want to talk about? Looks like maybe you want to talk about what mid-D distance event is an American most likely to win?
I think that's the question I use to sort of frame this meet. So, Rob, I'm not going to go through every single field right now immediately, but I think it's fair to assume in most cases, the best runners in the world will be in that event. Like women's steeple, Beatrice Chepkoech, Nora Gerudo are both there. Men's 2 mile, we've got Selman Barrega is entered. Women's 800, we haven't had the field announced there yet, but Casta Semenya is running it. Women's 3K, Genzebe Dibaba, Helen Obiri. Women's 1500, Laura Muir. We have Shelby Houlihan. Then men's mile, we have Chariot and Manangoya both running that, and Jakob Ingebrigtsen. So I said I wouldn't go through every field in detail. I went through there in modest detail. But we've also got pretty much all the top Americans are running these races as well. And my question was, which American is most likely to win a Diamond League distance event? Or it doesn't have to be the Diamond League official, but which one's most likely to win? So here are your options. Women's steeple, we have Emma Coburn, Courtney Frericks, Colleen Quigley, and also Allie Ostrander and Mel Lawrence. Men's 2 mile, Paul Shalimo, Eric Jenkins. Women's 800, we haven't had a field announced, but Ajay Wilson's really the only American capable of winning. And if Semenya's in that race, I would say no American's capable of winning, but Ajay Wilson, we're assuming she's in that race. Women's 3K, there's really no chance. It's Shannon Osika, Carissa Schweizer, and Rachel Schneider. And that field they're going up against has Sifan Hassan, Almaz Ayana, Genzebe Dibaba, Helen Obiri. I mean, that's a ridiculously loaded event. Women's 1500, Alexa Efraimson, Kate Grace, Shelby Houlihan, Dani Jones. Then the Bowerman Mile, we've got Ben Blankenship, Matthew Centrowitz, Craig Engels, Johnny Gregoric, Clayton Murphy. So of those events, I want you guys to tell me which one are we most likely to see an American victory in.
I mean, this is like going to be a boring discussion. There's only one that we even have a chance.
Women's 15?
Women's 15? No. Women's steeple.
What do you mean women's 15? Shelby Houlihan won the 1500 this meet last year.
This is like a dumb question. Okay, men's 2 mile, no chance. Women's 800, no chance. Women's 3K.
Wait, Chalimo just has no chance. You're just totally writing him off.
Correct. He hasn't been running great so far this year. I mean, who's in there? Are the studs in there like Barrega and the 12:43 guys? No chance.
Yes, Salomon Barrega's in there.
Men's mile, no chance. So,
I mean, we do have the Olympic champion. Just saying.
There's two things in this race. One, we got to talk about who's making their debuts. There's so many people making their debuts in this race. Matthew Centrowitz, seasonal debut. Shelby Houlihan, seasonal debut. Colleen Quigley, seasonal debut, right? Almaz Ayana, seasonal debut. Faith Kipyegon, seasonal debut. I mean, those are studs right there. So it's exciting. They're back, all these people. I would say, yeah, normally Houlihan might have a chance of winning it. She did win it last year, but not in her first race of the year when two women have already run 3:55. No, she's not going to win this race. So
Nzebe Dibaba is not in this race, and Stéphane Hassan is not in this race. So the two women who run 3:55 are not running this race, Robert.
I thought you said Laura Muir was in the race.
She hasn't run 3:55 this year.
Oh, okay. Well, it's either the women's steeple or women's 15. Still, women's steeple, I think, is the best. I mean,
and you want to know how many races did Shelby Houlihan run last year before she ran pre? She ran one race outdoors, 4:06 at the Brian Clay Invite on April 20th. That's the only race she ran before pre last year, and then she came out and ran 3:59.06. I think it's silly to write off someone who was one of the best 1500 runners in the world just because she hasn't raced yet this year.
I mean, that's pretty amazing if you think about Houlihan. Last year, she'd run 4:06 coming into this meet. I think she raced indoors, though. But she wins pre. And no one viewed her as like a top 1,500-meter runner. I mean, rewind 1 year ago. It's probably, 14 months ago? Because pre was earlier, or 13 months ago. And Shelby Houlihan's coming off of 4:06 into pre, and we would have said, no chance in hell she wins this race. She wins this race, becomes one of the top 1,500-meter runners in the world. Pretty much doesn't lose until the end of the season. I mean, she loses the Diamond League final, but what a run she had. But it's good to see her opening up because USAs are a month away, essentially. And if you haven't run a month before USAs, it's time to get a little bit worried. So she's opening up. Centro's opening up. Of the really big names, I think that leaves one American who we haven't seen this year. Anyone?
Evan Jager.
Exactly.
I mean, we sort of mentioned this a few weeks ago when Craig Vargin posted on the message board. I texted Evan Jager last week, asked him what his status was. He said he has a foot injury. He might be giving some more details in a little bit, but plans as of now is planning on running at USA's, but he's been dealing with a foot injury.
There's a chance, folks, that Jonathan Galt may have him on as a guest of next week's podcast, or at least an interview with him if we don't get him on the podcast. So stay tuned.
Let's cross your fingers there. But I want to say one thing, though, Welton. You said Shelby Houlihan, no one would have given her a prayer to win the pre-classic last year. I think that's unfair. She finished 4th in the world at World Indoors in the 1500 and 5th in the 3000. And Stéphane Hassan wasn't one of the women who beat her in the 1500, wasn't running at pre. Nzebe Dibaba, who also beat her in the 1500, wasn't running at pre. Laura Muir was just finishing up a big, graduating from veterinarian school. So she had done a lot of studying. Like, to say that Houlihan was a complete nobody this time last year isn't entirely true. I don't think she was favored to win, but when I saw her win, I wasn't that surprised given how well she had run indoors.
Well, John always has to let the facts get in the way of a good hot take by Weldon. But the pre-classic women's field last year was a little bit down, as John said. I actually went back as John was talking and looked up our preview from what we wrote, and we did even mention her. We said don't forget the Americans, led by. Well, we said don't forget Shelby Houlihan. We actually picked Simpson for the win, so we only listed 4 women as potential winners last year in our poll. Jenny Simpson, Dawit Simon, Laura Shelby Houlihan, and other. So that was the that was your options to vote in our pre-classic poll last year, and 12% of the people did pick Shelby Houlihan. So she was our third choice last year.
But Robert, you said you think the steeples are best chance to win, obviously, because you said that was the only chance for an American to win that race. So you feel confident based on what you've seen so far that, well, I guess I'm wondering, are you just saying that's the only place we have a chance to win, or are you predicting an American win for Emma Coburn here and Courtney Frerichs, who's running her season opener?
No, I'm not predicting an American win. I'm the racist. I'm the racist against the white people. I never pick American wins. I'm always underestimating our medal totals, and definitely not going to pick. I mean, maybe I should pick the 1500 because I feel like in general, Americans have a better chance in the 1500 than the steeple. I guess Shelby's a beast. So if Hassan's not in there, man, neither of the 355. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if Beatrice Shepkoech forgets to run the water jump, I mean, who's significantly better than Coburn?
Well, Nora Gerudo just beat Shepkoech at the Last Diamond League in Oslo. She ran 9:03, Shepkoech 9:04, Hyven Kiang 9:07, Emma Coburn 9:08.
My thought process is that we know that Coburn can run 9 flat, and right around there, and not many women in the world can do that. Really, only one woman is significantly better than that. So Coburn thought, she ran 9:05 last time out or something like that, 9:06.
9:08.
9:08. She thought she should run faster. So she probably thought she should run 9:05 or 9:06. She probably thinks she should be close to 9 minutes. So I think, I don't know. She has a shot, but if the women are already running 9 minutes, I don't see how she's going to beat them. So I'm predicting. I don't know which one's a better odds. I'm just going to say 0 American victories. I'm starting to think more for Houlihan now, actually.
Okay, so if I set the over-under at half an American win in a distance event, you would take under?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even have to think about it. I'm going correct as well. I mean, if there was a men's 8, I would take it.
Yeah, Is
there going to be a distance night, John? Like B?
No, it's all on Sunday this year.
This is idiotic. This is Stanford, where the weather's perfect. They should be running like a 12:30 5K the night before the pre-classic.
Yeah, they're doing a 2 mile again. I don't who cares about the 2 mile? Why is this a 2 mile? Like, make it a 3K, make it a 5K. Unless someone's going to break the 2 mile world record, which, spoiler alert, they're not. It's 7:58. Why even run the 2 mile? Can anyone give me an explanation there?
Better for American TV.
How?
People don't know what a 3,000 is.
People who are watching the pre-classic will know what a 3,000 is, Robert. Well, I'm going to say the question I posed to you guys, I will go with 1,500 as our best chance for win, but Americans' best chance for win. I keep saying us like I'm part of the Team USA. I'm not. But I would say, yeah, probably Houlihan just because we don't totally know. I would say Laura Muir is the favorite in that race, though. Then probably women's steeple, because we've got 2 bites of the apple there with Courtney Frerichs and Emma Coburn. And then you would have to say 2 mile with Chalimo, then probably Bowerman mile with Centrowitz, Clayton Murphy, Johnny Gregoric. But I would go with Timothy Cheruiyot on that race because he's been pretty unbeatable in Diamond Leagues. But yeah, all those races are going to be great. I mean, I'm really excited. Women's 1,500, I mean, you've got Faith Kipyegon coming back, the Olympic champion, the world champion. That's going to be really exciting. I guess the question I had for you guys, so Robert talked about these people coming back. We have 3 Olympic champions in the distance events alone who are making their season debuts. There's Almaz Ayana, the 10,000 Olympic champion and world record holder. She's running 3,000. We have Faith Kipyegon, as we mentioned, the world champion in the 1,500 and the Olympic champion in the 1,500, and she's running the 1,500 at pre. And we have Matthew Centrowitz, his first race for Bowerman Track Club since leaving NOP. It's like, Durant joining the Warriors. Out of those 3, which one is most likely to win? Which one's most likely to DNF? And which one's most likely to also ran? This is sort of a variant on Fuck, Marry, Kill. So what do you guys say?
Well, first of all, John, I'm interested in the Warriors analogy. Are you saying like the existing Warriors because they're not the champs? Because I don't know. I think a lot of people would rank the NOP higher than the Bowerman.
Yeah, I think I was saying more maybe a decision. It's not a great analogy. It's like sort of he's joining a rival group, and the Warriors, and he joined the Warriors right after the Thunder had lost the Warriors in the playoffs. So maybe I was saying it should have been like maybe Johnny Damon joining the Yankees or something like that would have been more appropriate.
And that's an old ton story. Like, he won Olympic gold under Salazar. Like, why did he leave? Was he pissed that that Clayton Murphy joined the team and basically Salazar's trying to coach his replacement? I mean, that would be a fascinating article. I think the most likely to DNF is obviously Ayana. I don't generally see people DNF miles, John. So,
I guess sorry, I should have said DNF or DNS, like just who doesn't start at all because they're still injured.
I think the DNS would be Centro. I mean, Bowerman people never race. If Ayana and Kipyego are going to get on a plane to go over there, I mean, I imagine those arrangements have already been made. But I'm really excited to see all three of them. I mean, Ayana was so good before she went out with her injury. Kipyegon as well. So, I mean, the Olympic champion. I mean, I think Centrowitz has really no chance of winning that race. So, but I'm fascinated to see how he looks. So, I mean, I'm really excited to see all three of them. But in terms of the win, I guess I would say I think Kipyegon has the best chance of winning a race. The question I really have about pre-classic, since I'm obsessed with the hype that we give to teenage phenoms, particularly on the women's side, folks, will Alexa Efraimson PR? It bothers me. John used to get on me. Like the first time Mary Kane didn't PR, I remember said, John, remember this, John? I was like, Mary Kane did not PR this year. He's like, oh, yeah, but she focused on the 3,000. It's not a big deal. I said, no.
She won World Juniors, and you're saying, oh, she didn't PR. She's in trouble. She got second at USA's behind Jamie Simpson. She won World Juniors. I don't think it was time to panic in 2014, Robert.
Jonathan, has she ever beaten her 2013 PR, or was I proven correct?
You were proven correct. I think you just jumped the gun. You can be right about something, but for the wrong reasons, Robert.
John, I am one of the world's top coaches, particularly females, even though people know me for coaching at my Cornell distance.
Whoa. The bullshit director in your room is just blaring right now, 5 alarm.
John,
so sorry. Maybe start that sentence again.
How am I qualified to talk on this? I said, well, I coached a woman. The first person I ever coached was a woman to the USAT Nationals in the women's steeplechase. She was a pioneer of the event. So I've been following it for a long time. But no.
How'd she finish, Robert?
Not well. That's a good question. Let's go back and look up the results. I don't know what year that was.
We don't need to do that.
So, Efraimson ran 403.39 in 2015. And unlike Mary Kane, she hasn't just bottomed out. I mean, she hasn't been horrific. She's run 406 in 2016, 404 in 2017, 407 in 2018, and 404 again. So last year, she came within 0.67 of her PR. And this year, she's already run... Oh, that's this year. Excuse me. She's run 406, which is within 0.67 of her PR. Can she do it?
I think so.
She's actually run 404 twice this year.
She ran 404 twice within the span of 4 days in China. She ran 404.53 in the Shanghai Diamond League on May 18th, and then 3 days later, she ran 404.06 in Nanjing. This one, she's not going to have to travel halfway around the world. It's a nice local meet for her. You know, it's a pretty easy trip down from Portland to Stanford. I think she PRs because I think the race will be fast enough. So Alexa Efraimson, and remember, she would just be, if she had gone to college, she would just be graduating right now. She is the same age as Dani Jones. She may actually be younger. Alexa Efraimson was born 20th February 1997. Dani Jones, who was running this race for Colorado, was born on 21st of August 1996. So it seems weird to say that, but Alexa Efraimson's actually younger than Dani Jones. Now, Weldon, I just want to go back. Do you have an opinion on the Ayana Kipyegon Centrowitz thing in terms of win DNS or also ran?
Well, John, I'm glad you brought that back. One, I think this is a really big run, first of all, for Faith Kipyegon. Coming back from childbirth is always an interesting proposition. See how that goes. She's still got a ways to go to Worlds, but she was the dominant force at 1500. So it'll be interesting to see, does she put up a credible performance this weekend? And if so, this is going to be one of the premier events of the World Championships. So she hasn't raced since 2017. Ayana hasn't raced since 2017 either. I feel like coming back from an injury, though, is usually a little more standard. Maybe that's just because I'm a guy and I can't relate to giving birth. So, and then Centro, changing groups, what have you. Who's going to... I don't know, man. I'm going to go Centro does the worst. I know that wasn't the question asked, but there might be a rabbit. That's not his type of race. I don't know. That guy always runs well. Why am I saying that? That's stupid. The other two are just so good. Usually, no matter what they run, I feel like they do all right. I think they're all three Olympic champions. I think actually all three do all right.
Everybody has a nice time. Weldon's just like living in the happy, fun world there.
Thank you. I think Centro might need a race the most before this, so that I guess that's why I'm sort of discounting him a bit. And so Efraimson's PR is still from high school.
Yes.
I think that's crazy because she's kind of had, she's been like I don't know how you want to say it, moderately successful pro. And she was this high school phenom. She wasn't as good as Mary Kane, obviously. She ran faster, actually, I think, but not the success that the USA's and the world's, that sort of thing. But it just shows, like, if you're a top teenage girl distance running phenom, making it to the next level is not an easy process. I commend her and, Mary Kane even, like, sticking with it and seeing what happens. So it'd be nice to see her get a PR.
Yeah, I mean, Efraimson, you look at our results at USA's, and Sarah Lodge Butler actually had a nice piece on Runner's World this week that was essentially saying, like, Efraimson turned pro in high school, her career's still working out pretty well. They're not all horror stories. It's sort of, there's some success. Noah Lyles, obviously, Drew Hunter did that as well. So, yeah, she was sixth at the Olympic trials in 2016 and fifth at USA's in 2017. She didn't make the final last year, but those are some pretty solid results. And to return one more time to the question I posed. Now, I've done some digging here that you guys didn't. I checked their social media accounts because you can sort of get an idea of whether someone's going to be racing if they're excited about it. So Centrowitz is talking, this is my last race before my last workout before pre. I think he's going to run. I don't think he'll run that well because the field is just really good. I don't think he'll win. So I'm calling him for the also ran. Kipyegon, I haven't seen anything on her social media, so maybe she just doesn't have a big presence. But to me, if I haven't heard anything about her, that means I pick her most likely to DNS just because I don't know for sure. Almaz Ayana tweeted, I think today, that she's excited to be racing at pre-classic. I don't think she'd be saying that if she wasn't making the trip over. So I guess by process of elimination, I'll say she's most likely to win, but I also don't think she's going to be beating Helen Obiri or Gonzabe DeBarber or Sifan Hassan in that 3K because it's loaded. So that's sort of my social media influenced picks there.
Okay, win also run in DNS. I can do that. Win is Kipyegon because the field's easier. DNS is Centro because he's closer. Ayana had to fly over there. I mean, if she's on the start list, she's starting. So I guess I'll go with her for also run. All right, everybody, we need to have a break here. We're past the halfway mark in the podcast. Everyone in Let's Run, guys, we want you to do this. Grab your phone. Robert, John, I don't see your phones coming up.
Okay.
We'll open the Apple Podcast app. Click on, the Let'sRun.com podcast. Scroll to the bottom. You keep scrolling. And then right there, you see ratings and reviews. And then hopefully you make the right choice and click the right number of stars. Come on, people. We need your reviews. It helps us out. You need to do that. Or, I guess preferably, you can go to Let'sRun.com/shoes and fill out a shoe review. And speaking of shoes, we'll be announcing this week the 10 winners of the Hoka shoes. Hoka was a huge partner of Let's Run for the month of May. We gave out 10 free pairs of shoes. I think I've rounded up 8 of the winners, and they've given their selections. They get any free shoe they want. 7 of the 8, I believe, might be 6 of the 7, have picked the Hoka Carbon X, the new shoe. There's new colors out, red and blue. I actually like them more than the free color they gave me. So, John, Robert, you guys have not been doing your podcast with Carbon X shoes on. Shame on you because you don't have a pair yet.
But right in time for July 4th, they have red and blue colors available. So get your patriotism on.
I'm struggling on this task that my big brother has given me. I feel like an old man. Like it says, listen now. I click on the podcast and I don't see anywhere to review it.
Okay, so open the podcast app, Robert. Go to library. Go to shows. Go to letsrun.com. Have you done that?
Yeah. Okay.
Scroll down.
Well, there's a lot of shows there. Oh, there we go. 40 ratings. 4.5. Rojo is the best. He should do his own podcast. Galt sucks. Wow. Okay, it doesn't really say that. But guys, enough about reviewing the shoes. Can we go back to my obsession about talking about former teenage phenoms? And I realized I'm obsessed with male teenage phenoms too. I mean, German Fernandez this week. Someone was linking to his 355 mile that he ran solo at the Big 12 meet. It was incredible. Anyways, if Alexa Efraimson is going to PR, and I didn't read this Runner's World article, John, but yeah, she was 6th in 2016 and 5th in 2017. But when you're like a 404 pro, you're really not relevant on the world scene. And then last year, she didn't make the final. So it wasn't looking good. This has been a great surge back into relevance. But John, you say she's going to PR. So that would mean 403 or better. So the question I have is, in my mind, I view Dani Jones as being better than her. I don't think if Alexa Efraimson was in college, she would be a dominant figure like Dani Jones. So Efraimson's better than, do you agree with me, John, that Dani Jones is better than Alexa Efraimson?
Could Dani Jones run 404 in Shanghai?
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Race?
I mean, who wins this race?
Between the two, Efraimson or Jones, in my mind, I think it's Dani Jones. Why wouldn't she win this race? Or it could just be a bias that the pros are so much better than college runners, you don't realize it. But to me, no, Dani Jones is the real deal. And I think she's better than Alexa Efraimson. But if she's better than her and Alexa's going to run 403, then that means Dani Jones has got to run, by definition, probably 402 or even 401. And that's getting us into close to collegiate record territory.
I mean, Dani Jones, her PR is 407.33. Okay. Last year, she was 5th at USA's. So 5th at USA's, usually you're faster than 407. The question is, though, she ran the 5,000 at NCAA's because she wasn't sure that her 1,500 speed was going to be around, come around in time. I'm just not confident she has the wheels right now to run 403 or 404. And we know Efraimson can run 404. Dani Jones, I think by the time of USA's, I think she could get into 402, 403 shape. But getting in that kind of fitness and actually, that's a month from now. I don't know if you just hop her in to the pre-classic right now, she's going to run 402, 403. And like you said, that would be the second fastest time ever. Only Jenny Simpson has ever run faster in college, 3:59 at pre. 10 years ago, happy 10-year anniversary to your amazing run at pre Jenny Simpson. So, yeah, I'm going to take Efraimson over Jones in this race. I know that we think of Jones as this unstoppable winning machine because she cleans up in college, but Efraimson's been rating. If Efraimson ran her high school PR of 403, would be the second fastest time ever by a collegian.
Good perspective. I'm still picking Dani Jones to beat her. I mean, she won the USA. Yes, she ran the 5. She didn't think her 1,500 speed was there, but running the 5,000 is good base work. That was like a month ago. She smoked everybody in the 5,000 at NCAAs. I think she's going to do it here. And when we were breaking down the races earlier in the year, I mean, the 1,500 is a non-Diamond League 1,500. So maybe it's making me think that maybe Houlihan has a better chance of winning that than Coburn in the steeple.
Okay, I agree with Robert's sentiment that we think of Dani Jones as like kind of like the better runner. But the facts say Efraimson's got a better 3K PR, better 1,500 meter PR. I mean, Dani Jones, obviously, is a cross tight on stuff. She's probably better at longer distances. So it's interesting. One question I wonder is, do you think it's easier for someone like Dani Jones, just she's gone through the NCAA ranks, learned to compete well, done well there. Now she enters the world as a pro. So she sets her sights higher, and it's sort of, is it easier for her to go from where she's at to make a jump and becoming a sub-4 runner? Whereas your Efraimson, you've been sort of thrown into the pros for 4 years, just getting your clock cleaned and running 404 and 405 and thinking I'm terrible. I don't know. Is it just harder, do you think, to make the jump? Do you think like having the levels, high school, college, pro, I mean, there's huge jumps at every level, but do you think someone sort of conquers them, it makes them easier to go to that next level? Or am I just making this up?
No, I see it. I agree with you, Weldon, because I think you need to make that leap from high school star to pro star. It's such a huge gap. You need to just have exceptional otherworldly talent. You need to be someone like Noah Lyles, who, I mean, when he was in high school, he was already one of the best in the world. He got 4th at the Olympic trials in the 200. And so he maybe stepped in and, then he was fine. But yeah, for someone like Efraimson, I mean, she's not running at the front of these races when she was starting out as a pro, whereas Dani Jones, she gets to develop, she gets to learn to win. I think that's huge, really. I mean, because she's someone who could be contending for medals one day, and you learn strategies, how to win races, you get experience, you get a lot of this. Obviously, Alexa's getting experience as well, but it's sort of, I think you're getting a greater variety of experience in college, just different race styles and running from the front, running from the back, learning to win this way, learning to win that way. Yeah, jumping up to college and then jumping up to pros, that gap is just smaller from college to pros. And if you're already a really good collegian, you can maybe just get a bump from racing against professionals. Whereas if you're Efraimson, you're not really going to get a bump when you're 22 years old because you've been racing pros for years already. So I think you make a good point, Weldon.
Yeah, interesting conversation, Weldon. And you do see a lot of women make some huge jumps, in the 1500 from college to pros. Remember some of those Florida State runners, John, from England? She ended up winning a medal. Her name is
Hannah England.
Thank you. Hannah England, thank you. From England. That jump is vast, and it's kind of the jump that most interestingly, that actually we've talked about this before, I think maybe not on the podcast, but on the website, that the average Kenyan that goes pro, like basically they have to be like world class or there's nowhere for them to run. It's a very hard jump for them. And I think why some of the Kenyan Americans do so well is these aren't necessarily the best Kenyans at 16, 17 in Kenya, but they come over here and they have intermediate goals. And then actually when they become a U.S. citizen, it's even easier for them because instead of thinking, I've got to run 12:55 to be relevant, they think if I can run 13:05, I might make a team. And then they run 13:05 and then they go from there. So, it's a good question. One other thing about this women's 1500 that I'm excited about, I am going to predict, going out on a limb, folks. I love our Canadian listeners. I am predicting Canadian national record. It has been 24 years. Is 1985 24 years ago, John, or 34 years ago? Help me out.
34 years ago.
Oh my God, he's right.
This man has a degree from Princeton University.
Former mathematics instructor, 5 in the BC calculus exam in high school. I'm not going to brag about my PSAT score in the math. I did that in another podcast and was mocked for it. But Lynn Williams, back in Brussels, 1985. Folks, it is early in the morning here. That's why my brain's not working well. 4 flat.
10:30 for the record.
Well, I was up late. Okay, I was up late watching baseball highlights. Not really. Anyways, Lynn Williams ran a 4 flat 0.27. Gabrielle DeBooz Stafford, who now trains with Laura Moore's group, she's run 4 flat 46 this year. She's actually run close twice. She ran 4:01.28 as well. So I feel like she's poised to break it. Canada could have its first sub 4 ever, which would be exciting. They also had their first sub 2:10 marathon this year, all in the same year. Very exciting.
Well, yeah, that was last year by Cam Levins, but last 12 months. Melissa Bishop, remember her? She also gave birth last year, 800 star. She was 4th at the 2016 Olympics, 2nd at the 2015 Worlds. She is running the 1500 at this race, in this meet. She doesn't normally run the 1500. Her PR is 4:09. I'm fascinated to know A, why she's running this event, and B, to see what she'll do. She's raced twice this year, a couple low-key meets in Canada. She ran 2:01 for 800. She ran 4:09 1500, which was her PR. Her previous PR was 4:09, but just slightly slower on the fraction. So I'm not saying she's going to challenge Gabriella DeBooz Stafford, but I am interested to see what Melissa Bishop does. I can't remember her ever running a high-profile 1500, so this should be interesting.
One other thing about this meet, there's no 5,000. It's sort of what we're going to see in the future, unfortunately, in the Diamond League. Like no long distance races. Nobody cares about a 2 mile or a 3K. We were praising IAAF a little bit earlier in the show. I still think they need to realize that a couple 5,000s on the circuit are not going to hurt anybody.
Yeah, I can't believe they think an hour and a half TV broadcast is the key to making track and field relevant and having the same, have the same people race 6 times a season. I think you don't necessarily need the same people to race that much, maybe 4 times. And I think a more set schedule, like the Diamond League is always on a Friday night or Saturday, whatever it is, would be better. It's just so kind of haphazard now, and then it's not every week, and then there's 3 meets in 1 week. It's kind of hard to follow. If it became Thursday night track, Saturday night track, whatever it is, that would be better. But at least they're trying something new. So I give them that much credit. I think we should quickly, I think there's some great sprint matchups at I don't know where to begin. Maybe the women's 100 meters, because we had a hot one at the Jamaican Championships.
Yeah, that's going to be fun because what we've got here, Shelly Fraser Pryce, 5-time global champion. Definitely, in some people's minds, she's the GOAT of the women's 100. She's running this race after just coming off a 10:73, getting beat out by a few thousandths by Elaine Thompson at the Jamaican champs. And she is facing, in this race, Sha'Carri Richardson, the 19-year-old American NCAA champion from LSU. She just turned pro. This is a pro debut. She ran 10:75, collegiate record at NCAAs. These two are squaring off. You got some other women. You've got Marie Jose Talu in there, who's a silver medalist from World Indoors last year. You got Aaliyah Hobbs, last year's U.S. champion. But really, it's a two-woman race. It's old versus young. Shelly Fraser Pryce. She's another woman coming back from pregnancy. So I'm sensing a theme developing here at the pre-classic. And yeah, the 19-year-old American superstar against the 32-year-old Jamaican who might be the GOAT. I mean, who do you guys got in this race?
I think you got to go with Shelly Fraser Pryce, just because, I don't know, she ran great this past weekend. She's still in form. A 19-year-old freshman, I don't know what she's going to be doing 3 weeks later after turning pro. So I'm going with the Olympic champion.
That's my exact reasoning. We just don't know. Richardson's in uncharted territory. How's she going to hold up after the NCAA season? We do know that Shelly Fraser Pryce knows what she's doing, and she just ran 10:73. So I think that is my pick as well. How about, speaking of Olympic 100-meter champions, do you have something to say, Robert, or what?
It will be interesting to me to see how fast they run. I mean, Shelly Fraser Pryce has only run 10:75 7 times in her life, and that's, if she runs it again this weekend, it'll be 8 tying her all time with Marion Jones. So to expect her to run that fast for the second time in 2 weeks, it doesn't seem wise. So Sha'Carri Richardson too. I mean, the times may not be what we want, particularly as John said, we don't know how fast this track is for sprinting. But I also would like to interrupt here with some bad news about the meet. The meet is Sunday, correct, John? Just want to confirm my stats. I've gone to weather.com, which is not my favorite weather thing. If you want the most amazing weather app, folks, go to download Dark Sky. It costs like $3.99. It's amazing. For some reason, since I'm on my desktop, I'm not looking at my Dark Sky app. But the Sunday weather forecast, 10 to 20 mile per hour winds in Palo Alto on Sunday. That's pretty significant.
Well, we could see some super times in the spring.
I guess it would be good assuming they.
That's Stanford. Has it ever windy in Stanford? I guess I'm always used to seeing meets there at night where the wind dies down.
We're never there in the day. I've never been to a drag meet in the day.
What time's the meet?
The final event ends at like 3 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay, I'm on Dark Sky. Unfortunately, Dark Sky, which I trust more than weather.com, well, it has wind speed and then wind miles per hour. At 7 mile an hour winds, wind gust of up to 12, with the wind picking up. So by 4 p.m., it's supposed to be 14 mile an hour gust. By 6 p.m., 15 mile an hour gust. So the wind could be an issue.
Okay, well, the meet's over at 3, so whatever, it's relevant, whatever.
I know, I'm just saying, the wind will be picking up throughout the afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, so let's talk. Speaking of Olympic champions, we've got two more of them on the men's side who we've barely seen at all the last few years. Justin Gatlin, 37 years old. This is his first Diamond League since May 2018. He's the reigning world champion, in case you guys forgot, in the 100 meters. He's running against Christian Coleman in that race. And then in the men's 400, Michael Norman's the headliner, but we've also got Lashawn Merritt. Apparently, Lashawn Merritt is still alive and running track races because he's entered in this race as well. He's 32 years old. This is his first Diamond League since May 2017. I mean, are these guys, are they washed up? Does Merritt or Gatlin have anything left? I mean, this is the first time Gatlin's faced Coleman since the 2017 World Championship final when they went 1-2. So what do you guys make of this?
Well, the question I have is which one of them is more likely to test positive after the race? No.
Test positive again, you mean, right?
Yeah, that was a joke. But there's actually a few interesting things about this. One, it reminds me of the age. I mean, Gatlin's 37. I've always said this. You can run like the best of your career, like right near the end of your career. But when you fall off hard. So you could PR at like 35 and then be completely done at 38. Like once it goes. You like fall off a cliff. But Merritt, he is 32, but he'll be 33 tomorrow. So he'll be 33 at the day of the race. I would say that he will be more relevant just because I've never seen a 37-year-old sprinter. You know, think about it. If Usain Bolt comes back and competes till he's 37, like what Olympics would that take us through? Would that get us through 2028?
Well, I think he's 32 now. Yeah, he's 32 now.
Oh,
so
wow.
By the time of the 2020 Olympics, he would be roughly 34 because he always turns, his birthday's in August. So he would be 33 turning 34. So 2024, he would be 37 turning 38.
Yeah, I said 28. I want him as a 42-year-old in Tokyo.
Do you want him doing the Merlin Oddie, just completing for like Was it? Didn't she start competing for Slovakia or something like that?
No, by then they'll legalize drugs and he'll be winning again.
Sorry, Molinari was competing for Slovenia from 2002 to 2012. She was 52 competing for Slovenia at some meets. That's absolutely absurd.
It would be full circle. He made his stage on the Asian Games, and then he could end his career at the Asian Games.
I'm not going to be so quick to write off Gatlin. I mean, I don't think he's going to win Worlds again this year because the 100's just gotten really good. Coleman's better than he was, and we've got other guys in there as well. But he won Worlds at age 35. The guy knows how to peak. I'll give him that. He knows how to get in shape for USA's and runs well. Like, I don't know. I'm interested to see what he does, but I think Coleman has to be the heavy favorite in this race.
Yeah, as a 45-year-old, I want to take back what I said, saying that I thought Merritt would just be better because he's younger. I mean, has Merritt even raced this year? I mean, Gatlin's been running pretty well, 10:01, 10 flat in 2 different races. Like, that's legit. He's going to go sub 10. So I have a lot of confidence in him. He was the world champion. I mean, Lashawn Merritt hasn't been really relevant. I mean, when's the last? Well, I guess he got a silver in 2015.
Well, no, 2017, he made the U.S. team in the 400. He finished, he won the pre-classic actually in 2017. So just 2 years ago, he made the team in the 400 and made the semifinals at USA's. So he had the bye. He didn't make the semifinals at USA's. He didn't run USA's in the 400 because he had the bye as a Diamond League champion from the year before. He made the semifinals at Worlds. He didn't break 45 flat at Worlds. And then last year, he didn't really run very much. And then this year, he's run 200. He ran 20:51 in Montverde, Florida on June 8th. So I think in terms of who's going to have a more successful run at the pre-classic, it's probably going to be Justin Gatlin.
But Gatlin didn't break 10 last year. I mean, he's run 10 flat this year. So, I mean, the question is, can he become a sub? To win Worlds, you got to be a 9.8 guy, 9.7 guy. I just don't think he's going to get there. But this year, I mean, he's a veteran. So there's no bonus points for running fast in June. So it'd be fine if he sort of rounds into form by July and gets ready for Worlds, which are
late September. I mean, he doesn't even need to round into form for USA's because he's got the bye to Worlds. So he can just focus on getting ready for World Championships, which is a nice advantage for him.
Yeah, so I'm going to give him more of the benefit of the doubt there. But, I mean, the 400, it's really more about Michael Norman. What can he do? I mean, he crushed my guy, Noah Lyles, who I never wanted to lose a 200-meter. As the self-proclaimed leader of the Noah Lyles fan club, it was a very tough loss. The fan club's recuperating. But we got to tip our hat to Michael Norman. And, I mean, the guy is just unbelievable. Maybe we should have a sprinter on the podcast as a guest. That's what we should do, guys. That's the goal for second half of the season. I should say for next week, but maybe Noah Lyles or Michael Norman on the podcast. But, I mean, these guys, that's the only knock on Pre is I feel like sometimes, well, there's no 200 this year, but, you don't have Noah Lyles, who's, well, I was going to say he's the biggest name in U.S. sprinting right now, but he got beat by Michael Norman, and you got Christian Coleman. But, those three guys between them are pretty amazing and very bright future for U.S. sprinting.
Yeah, I mean, Lyles ran Pre last year, so I think there's no 200 on the schedule, but you get Michael Norman, you get Coleman, that's good. Women's 200 is actually pretty good. Elaine Thompson stepping up to run that. Salwa Eid Nasser from Bahrain, who's been running great in the 400 this year. She's stepping down to run that. Daphne Skippers, who's the reigning world champion. Tori Bowie's in there. Dina Asher-Smith is in there. That's going to be a fun race as well. And then men's 110 hurdles, I mean, you have Daniel Roberts, the NCAA runner-up. He's not listed in the start list anymore, so he must have withdrawn. He was supposed to be running, but he's not in there anymore. So forget I said that. But you've got the men's 400 hurdles, Rai Benjamin. That unfortunately, you got another scratch in there because Abdurrahman Samba was supposed to run. He's not entered anymore, so it's sort of just most likely will be Benjamin for the win. See how fast he goes, but he's a fast young star that I think people are going to be interested in seeing race. So, I mean, pretty much every track race at Pre, you're going to get some very good names, and it's just interesting how fast is that track for sprinting? How cooperative will the wins be? That's sort of what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's going to be a great meet. I mean, look at them, even the men's 100. It's basically a preview of USA's. You got Cameron Burrell, Christian Coleman, Justin Gatlin, Craven Gillespie, Michael Rogers. Good stuff. So, should we talk about message boards threads of the week or deleted threads of the week or what we most enjoyed about last week? Enough about Pri, I think.
Well, I'm worried we haven't mentioned Alberto yet on the podcast this week, and I think that's a rule that, do we have any way to shoehorn him into any of these conversations? I think no, actually, you mentioned him when Centrowitz, we talked about Centrowitz leaving Alberto, so that's our weekly quota for Alberto Salazar. What did you find interesting on the message board this week, Robert? Do you have any thread in particular?
Well, from a few weeks ago, we didn't really talk about this after NCAAs, and for some reason I was looking for message board threads and I saw this, so this is from a few weeks ago, but it was called Brigham Young University Success in Distance Running is Due to the Latter-day Saints Community's Discipline and Work Ethic. So we talked about how the BYU guys are all older. A lot of them are, 7th-year seniors, right? 2 years for the...
Some of them, not all of them. But Clayton Young, NCAA 10,000 champ, is a 7th-year senior.
I said a lot of them. Okay, significant number. 6 years is very common there. And I certainly think that age helps. I mean, I'm all about making sure that just things are fair. But I often point out in Let's Run in the week that was that life isn't fair. But it should be we try to make things as fair as possible. Like a man competing in women's competition is not fair. That's why I try to protect that. A Paralympian running against an able-bodied Olympian is not fair either. It's just a different sport. So read the week that was and read about the 17-year-old. 2 17-year-olds this year have run 145 for 800. One of them is a Paralympian. We have a video in the week that was. It's amazing to watch him. He can't, he runs his first 200 in over 30 seconds, and then he runs 145. Well, in this race, he probably ran 148 or something, but it's pretty amazing. But anyways, back to BYU. People were debating, the lifestyle, and I think there is something to this. Yes, BYU's at altitude. Yes, they have older runners, but most of the recruits are all from the Utah area. I would say that they have greater success than you would anticipate based on just the level of the recruits and the age of the recruits. And I think some of it does belong to the lifestyle. And the Mormons do not drink, at least they're not supposed to, alcohol or even caffeine. So, it's not like they're out at a club carousing. They're getting a lot of rest and stuff like that. And Weldon, I actually look at your career. When Weldon was a terrible Ivy League runner, 5th in Ivy League, and then 4th as a professional, everyone's like, oh, he moved to altitude. He started training high mileage with John Kellogg and doing all that. I'm like, yes, that's true. And I think we were late developers. It's always about when you stop improving. But I also think, he moved away from Washington, D.C. He quit his job. He went all in on the running. But he wasn't going out in Georgetown on the weekends. He was just running. And I think that when you're young, you don't realize that partying does impact you. I'm not saying college coaches, when the teams don't go well, love to blame the kids for drinking and saying that's why they suck. But I think that it does impact you. And I think BYU deserves some credit for that. What do you guys think about that? The other thing about Weldon is in Washington, D.C., he was also Andy Downing was there. He was a Georgetown runner. Andy left and moved to Wisconsin or something and beat Alan Webb and won the USA's in what year was that? 2001 or something?
Robert, I think this is sort of an insult to some of these other programs. Like BYU, okay, they're not allowed to drink alcohol, but Stanford, you really think Grant Fisher's just going out and hitting the clubs every Saturday night? If you're at a top tier distance program, especially one with a really good team like Stanford, Colorado, NAU, these guys aren't going out at the weekends and drinking alcohol a lot. They might, maybe after the season's over, they'll hit up a bar or two. But during the season, I'm guessing most of these guys are pretty religious about getting their rest and getting their recovery and not drinking and not doing anything. I mean, these guys, they're essentially pro athletes, And I remember talking to Syracuse, the guys at Syracuse and Brian Bell, and he was essentially like, yeah, look, he's militant about protecting their culture. And when they won NCAAs, he's like, look, if we see someone slacking off, the other guys are going to call them out on it. So I don't know. I think the instance of these top tier runners just being held back by drinking, I think of the power programs, maybe in the 90s that was the case, but I don't think it's the case anymore.
No pun intended, John, when you said religious, right?
Right.
It's probably too simplistic to make it one thing or the other. I do remember back in the day in college going to Penn Relays one year, and we ran the race, and then Arkansas was dominating everything. And somehow next thing I knew, a bunch of Robert, I'm pretty sure you were there too. It was some Yale runners, some Princeton runners, and some Arkansas runners were in the back of a car heading to Atlantic City. And we go to Atlantic City, we party through the night, and we're like exhausted and heading back. And Arkansas is like the number one team in the country. And we're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I got the HEPs next weekend. And then these guys are like, we got to be back for 8 a.m. long run. So, I don't know. I mean, some of the runners back in the day, the 80s, used to hear stories like these guys were working long jobs and still running 2:08 marathons and still throwing back some beers on the weekend. So it's too simplistic. But the more simple your life is, and if it's prohibited doing some things that may be detrimental to running, like they're doing those things less than somebody else. But it may help someone to have a couple beers and blow off some steam. So it could work both ways. But the Mormon lifestyle can't hurt, except you want some caffeine before a race. It's a proven performance enhancer. If you Google New York Times caffeine, Weldon Johnson, I'll be the first word in the New York Times article on caffeine. So imagine if you gave one of those guys who's never had caffeine in his life, like a little espresso right before a 10K. I mean, we might have some new American record holders.
Wow. Also, I wanted to share one story on this topic. Last year at the pre-classic, I asked Matthew Centrowitz what was his favorite memory of a race he had at Haywood Field, because they were knocking it down. And he told me it was the 2011 USA meet when he won his first US title. And it was a surprise because he upset Bernard Lagat. And he said after that race, he went out in Eugene with some of his friends. They were, partying, having a good time. And then he's like, that was the first time I ever went out in college. And you don't really, Centrowitz, I was kind of surprised. I was like, really? And he's like, he's just, to get that good. All right, there are some guys who can get away with it. I'm sure Centro could have been very good if he decided to, party it up in college, but he was dedicated. I don't think Galen Rupp, I doubt Galen Rupp was going out and, when he was dominating the NCAA's at Oregon, I doubt he was going out every weekend either. I mean, most of these guys, I think when you get to that level, they're going to be pretty serious about it. Maybe once a big meet's over, but that story stuck with me.
I think a lot of kids, college kids, that they don't know any moderation. It's like all or nothing. Like some college kid can go out and go to a party and have a beer or two and totally go for a long run the next day. But I think a lot of college kids haven't learned how to drink responsibly. And, maybe it's changing as more word gets out.
Oh, and the funny detail I forgot from that story was at the end of the night, Centro said he asked the other guys he went out with, he's like, is going out always that fun? Because they'd had like just a wild night because he was the US champ and they were all celebrating him. And they were like, no, it's not usually always that fun. And he was like, good, because if it was always that fun, I would have felt like I really missed out in college. So, I'm sure he's had a few things to celebrate since then as well. So
whatever happened to the Centro? We're gonna have a Centro Senior Book Club. Robert, you were going to lead that thing. There was the book written on Centro Senior. I haven't read it. You guys said it was a great book. There's some parting in that book, from what I understand. But should we bring back the Centro Senior Book Club?
But before 2019, we didn't follow through on our commitments. Now we're holding ourselves accountable. As a father, I'm responsible for more than just myself and my wife. So, we probably should. Hopefully they'll make that into a movie. There's some rumor of that. That would be cool. One other thread that caught my attention this week was British commentary called pretty chunky at the 1972 Olympic final. Where was the outrage then? And it was a pretty clever, there's been a lot of talk recently about the comments made about Allie Ostrander's height and weight during the NCAA championships. And this was an interesting thread saying, like, look, in the 1972 Olympic men's final in the 5,000, literally as was making his move to the front, I think with about 500 meters to go, the announcers, like in the chunky American, Prefontaine moves to the front. I just think, like, look, people, there's you treat these things differently with men and women. That's just the way it is. It's like there's certain words that black people can use and white people can use. I mean, but it was a good clip, and just to rewatch that race made me chuckle. And along those lines, folks, I actually got in touch with Mike J. He was the stadium announcer. He is a really good stadium announcer, and I found out what he actually said about Allie Ostrander's weight. So Allie Ostrander, when she made her move to the lead, I think she made a big move with 2 laps to go. And Mike J said, and the 5'3", 110-pound, 202-time defending champion has moved to the front. And Mike told me that his intention was that he would come across as like she's small but mighty. And apparently Ostrander and a number of women in the race, all heard this and were upset by it. And I think it just shows you that the weight issue and maintaining a proper weight is very hard for a lot of women runners, particularly. So they're sort of, the men runners might not even realize that, this was said, but the women definitely did. The interesting thing to me was, Allie made a point of that he got her weight wrong. So her actual listed weight on Wikipedia is 5'1", 100 pounds. So he made her bigger than she really was. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but just getting the facts out there. I feel like moving forward, men are going to learn to be more sensitive about this, which is good. I think that I'm glad the pitchforks haven't come out for Mike because he does such a good job.
I've actually got the pre-audio. Here it is.
The chunky American driving for home. Buren following. And Ian Stewart not covering Gammoudi. Gammoudi goes.
So there it was, the 1972 Olympic final. Chunky American.
I'd like to know. I'd love to know from in the post-race interview if someone asked Pre what his thoughts would be on being called chunky. I'm sure he would have had a funny quote about it. He'd probably be more upset by being called fourth place than being called chunky. But different times.
Definitely different times. When I was watching that race, it reminded me of like Pre ran that last lap the way I see high schoolers run races. Like if I'm coaching now, I'm just like conserve energy, and make one move. Like Pre was like wildly he made 2 or 3 huge moves in that last lap. One with 500 to go, and then a big move on the backstretch, and then another move. And then he realized they were coming from him for third. He was way up in third, and he just kept dugging to the line. So I think in the last 45, 50 years, people have learned to sort of run a much more boring race, basically.
All right, guys. I have an email of the week. We also have the thread of the week, somewhat related to this, college athletes, runners. Morgan McDonald has gone pro. That is the most popular thread of the week. Kind of interesting. That, John, and also, John, tell me if you know anything about this. My old coach said Roger Bannister did not run sub-4 first. He said a few weeks earlier someone did it at the Dartmouth track. John, did you ever heard this before?
I've never heard this story. It sounds like bullshit to me. It's like, was his name Quentin Cassidy? Did he show up and run it in the workout in the middle of the night after doing 60 by 400 a few weeks earlier? Like, I'm sorry, I just don't see that happening.
And then the fourth thread, people are still obsessed with this Frank Meza guy, who allegedly ran a 2:53 marathon at age 70 at the LA Marathon. I think it's pretty clear for most people who've looked into it, they think he cheated. But I'm just amazed at how popular those threads are. But the email of the week is related to last week on the podcast. We had a discussion. Who would you rather be, Josh Kerr, Grant Fisher, or Drew Hunter? And the email of the week is from Tim Jones. He wins a free pair of Hoka shoes. He chose the Carbon X. And he's just comparing Hunter and Fisher. And he says, this is an easy one for more reasons than running. The answer is Drew Hunter. And Let's Run.com thought, here are some quick thoughts why. Challenges Fisher will face. Number 1, Bowerman Track Club. We've seen Jager a consistent threat in the steeple, and the Bowerman women are always on fire. Otherwise, the Bowerman Track Club men see steady improvement. But we have yet to see any of them medal threats. Then point number 2. Fisher needs to race more, not less. Fisher used the same tactic in almost every race of his college career, and now he's going to a group where he will race max 10 times a year. I don't see him exploring himself as a racer in Bowerman Track Club. Number 3, Nike reduction clauses. This will always be in the back of Fisher's mind. He will either race safe to keep top dollar on his contract or fade under the pressure. Interesting. All right, now he says upsides for Hunter. Leading a team. Hunter has built a team around him, and they look to him for inspiration. A quick follow of Hunter and Tim in the lead on Instagram shows that Hunter takes great pride in creating an environment for him and his team to get better. Even if Hunter struggles, he can see his teammates improve and trust that it is the process he believes in that has caused their success. Then next point, entrepreneur. The Tinman Elite Group has started a clothing line for Adidas. For Hunter, this means that he knows that he is adding value to an apparel company because he is selling apparel. I suspect that takes a little pressure off Hunter performance-wise. Hunter has created a new path to running fast and chasing his dreams. I believe the excitement he's created with Tim and Elite will carry him to more success. So, thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on it. I appreciate the email. I'm glad he got a pair of shoes, but come on, buddy. First of all, if we're going to talk about things, he's selling apparel. Does anyone go to this Instagram account? They're selling like $100. I mean, I actually went there after you showed me the email. Well, then they got a cool logo, but come on, dude. He's selling like $200 worth of apparel and thinks that this is some massive thing. No. If we're going to talk about things outside of track, he said what was the exact quote that he had about not just performance? Well, if I'm choosing between the two, honestly, I would pick to be Grant Fisher because he has a Stanford degree. And in 15 years, you're going to want to have that Stanford degree. So, but if we're talking about just running, which runner would you rather be? I thought that there was a bit of a cheap shot about the discounting of Jerry Schumacher's work with the Bowerman Track Club. Matt Tegenkamp wasn't a world medalist contender. Didn't he get fourth, John?
Yeah, by like less than half a second. He barely missed out on a medal. Ryan Hill medaled at World Indoors. Tom Schwartz, I have a lot of respect for him. What has he ever done with professionals? Like,
Chris Zielinski had a chance.
Look at all the women he's done. Like, you can't just discount the women's success. He coached an American woman to win the New York City Marathon. Courtney Frerich's got silver at the World Championships. Like Emily Infeld. Jerry Schumacher is one of the most decorated American coaches of all time. The idea that you would say, this is how it was listed. Challenges Fisher will face, and Bowerman Track Club was listed as one of the challenges. Again, I appreciate the email, Tim, but like the idea that Bowerman is a challenge that Grant Fisher has to overcome to medal at Worlds is ludicrous.
It drives me nuts. Also, like Jerry's now viewed as this women's guru coach, whereas 5 years ago he didn't coach women. So people coach with the talent level they have. So Mohamed, he was close to winning a medal, right? He was sixth at the last Worlds, but he was up there, like in that lead group.
I think he was fourth at the 2016 Olympics, right? I have to double check that. He just broke the Canadian record.
Correct.
Ran sub 13.
Fourth in the 2016 Olympics. Fourth in the 2016 Olympics. He's had no other medal contenders. Yeah, just because Rupp gets second or third, like he is God's gift, Mohamed gets fourth and he sucks. I mean...
Yeah, and then wait, Nike. So he said Nike reduction clauses. This will always be in the back of Fisher's mind. He will either race safe to keep top dollar in his contract or fade under the pressure. I've never spoken to a pro who thinks about reduction clauses during a race. They're like, oh no, I better close this lap in 53 or else I'm going to get reduced. Like, come on, man. You just get out there and race.
No, I will defend this though. Grant needs to race more often. Definitely. But this guy has reminded me, and I've got a little, you guys can see, I'm going to walk around now because I'm getting old and forgetful. I have this little notebook. I'm going to write down things for the podcast as I think of them during the week. And I think we need to announce a couple of NCAA violations that have sort of been uncovered on this podcast. One happened last week. Grant Fisher signing with the Bowerman Track Club, to me, should be ruled as an NCAA violation. Conflicts of interest there are deep, folks. Grant Fisher's agent is Tom Ratcliffe. Tom Ratcliffe's son, Thomas, runs for Stanford, as does Jerry Schumacher's son runs for Stanford. So they sign Grant, and then they're going to get the son, and they're going to get Thomas. It's all convoluted. Seems NCAA, look into this.
Oh, that was your grand conspiracy last week, right? They only signed Sean McGordy and Grant Fisher so they can get Thomas Ratcliffe when he turns pro, right?
Wait, Schumacher's kid's on the Stanford team? I was wondering what happened to him. He was really good 2 years ago.
Other NCAA violation, this is from several weeks ago. So remember the great story? We had Stephanie Bruce on as a guest of the podcast, and her dad died. She didn't have money to go to the college. She was going to drop out after her freshman year. And an article came out in the local paper, and some local benefactor saw it, and it's like, no, I want this to go to college. And he just paid her way. And I was like, as a former college coach, I was like, how was that allowed? I'm surprised NCAA didn't stop that. I mean, it could just be a big donor. They wanted to get an extra scholarship.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that the boosters of the UC Santa Barbara track and field program are just notorious for that corruptness. So clearly they want to build up the UCSB team to be one of the best in the nation.
So I'm kind of joking about both these, but while we're talking about the Bowerman Track Club, let's reward the people with a little gossip here at the end of the show. John will probably think it's irresponsible, but there's a lot of buzz, folks, about some shocking coaching developments. Now, what's being speculated is the UNC coaching job is open, and people are saying on the message board that a big-name West Coast person who is not currently coaching college is interested in the job, and that it will shock you if this ends up being accepted. So there's a number of interesting theories there, and they all involve the Bowerman Track Club. Well, not all of them. Well, actually, all the theories I heard do in some way involve the Bowerman Track Club. But Shalane Flanagan, who is a UNC alum and has expressed an interest in coaching, would be a candidate. Some think that she might not be hired since she has no real formal coaching experience. But hey, I didn't have any coaching experience. I got hired at Cornell. So she could take the job. Jerry Schumacher could come back in college and they could kind of take the job together. Or maybe Pascal Daubert could take the job with Shalane together. So some combo of Jerry by himself, Pascal Daubert, or Shalane, any of those three would all be good fits there. It's kind of interesting. Or there's also some talk that Chris Miltenberg of Stanford would take the job. Oh, by the way, Jerry Schumacher, while he's not an alum of UNC, did coach there. It was his first coaching job was at UNC before. So he's familiar with the school. And there's some talk about Chris Miltenberg being interested in the job. And I don't know if that's true. People are like, why would you leave Stanford? A lot of coaches leave Stanford. It's very expensive to live there. There's a lot of pressure. So if he left there, some were speculating, well, if Miltenberg goes to North Carolina, Stanford's obviously a prime job. Would Jerry Schumacher then move down to Stanford to coach his son? So dominoes, folks. Fascinating stuff. Who knows if it's true? We'll find out soon.
Wow, this is like the equivalent of NBA free agency. Speculation. Where will KD land? Who will be coaching UNC cross country? They'll probably just hire some boring candidate that no one of us has ever heard of, but it's fun to speculate. Even.
John, I'm glad your reaction. I thought you were going to say I'm gossiping. This is just like the talk shows.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's somewhat irresponsible, but then I think about it. It's like, look, we speculate where KD. People are like, oh, KD's going to sign with the Nets, and we know that. It's like no one really knows. No one knows who Kawhi Leonard's going to sign with, but we speculate about that. So yeah, who could get the UNC job? Shalane Flanagan has said she wants to coach. Does she want to? What she said in the past is she wants to coach, basically start coaching the Bowerman women, I think, or like work with the Bowerman women as a coach. But if they want to hire her to be the UNC director or whatever, I think, she doesn't have, you said she doesn't have formal coaching experience. She's done some, she helps out. Like she's as close, she does some sort of coaching with the Bowerman right now, especially when she's hurt. She was in World Cross, helping out with that. Oh, that obviously didn't go that well for the Bowerman women, but I don't know how much blame you can really place on Shalane for that. But she's one of the most prominent track and field alums North Carolina has, if not the most prominent. So I think it would be an interesting hire. I think young women, would definitely be, especially right now, that would be such a recruiting advantage to have Shalane Flanagan as the face of your program. But who knows? Maybe this is just all hogwash, and they're going to stay up in Beaverton like they've been there for a while. So I don't know. We'll see where the dominoes fall.
Okay, guys, I think that's a wrap. Podcast number 26, the first of the summer. It's been a good first half of the year.
One thing we have not talked about, real quick. We gave much praise to Hoka. Thank you for the sponsorship of the ultramarathon scene. But this weekend is the big one from the U.S. races. Western States is happening. Jim Walmsley, who we featured on a podcast, will be running. He's the course record holder. I assuming he'll be going for another course record. And of course, a lot of it depends on the weather. But he set the course record last year, right, when the weather wasn't good. So be interesting to follow that one. So thank you, Hoka.
That was your 2019 Western States preview.
Yeah, we said we're going to start previewing these things. Okay, I'm pretty confident Walmsley will win the men's race. Guys, go to irunfar.com. Looks like they have a women's preview up. Oh, Courtney DeWalter's in it. She will win as well. There you go. Those are my predictions. The men's, actually, I read their preview beforehand. I've not read the women's yet. But I feel like those are very strong, dominant picks.
Yeah, but the thing is, the ultramarathon's such a crapshoot. I remember last year, people were like, oh, UTMB, it's Killian Jornet and Jim Walmsley, and then neither of them won. It's like so much stuff can go wrong. It's like if we think the best marathoner in the world outside of Kipchoge wins the marathon, like maybe 50% of the time, or like however much you want to make as a favorite. The favorite in a marathon, how often do they win? It's not that high. I think it's even lower in ultramarathon. Speaking as someone who doesn't know too much about the sport, but that's sort of my sense on it. Yeah, I think those people, according to Walt, Jim Walmsley certainly seems like the favorite. He broke the course record last year. I think he has the highest upside for sure, but I don't think I wouldn't call anyone in an ultra a lock, but just because of so much can go wrong.
I disagree in the sense that these fields aren't nearly as deep as like a London marathon. Walmsley's so much better than like the sixth place person that.
But anything can go wrong. He did drop out, he never won till last year. So I think it showed John has a good point. And we did it. We got John to discuss the ultra marathon. Hoka's marketing effort has come through. Hoka, well done.
Yeah, all you have to do is pay Robin and Weldon tons of money, and we'll talk about it. Just
John, he didn't write any of the Hoka ultra marathon articles, but he became interested in it. And I guess they were successful because we actually talked about it on our own. But I think that's a wrap for this week. Podcast number 26 in the books, first of the summer. And we do want your feedback. So go to letsrun.com/podcast. No S, I guess. No S, everybody. Well, I don't know. We'll have a way for you to email me. Maybe a form. You can give us feedback. What do you want? More guests? What do you want to have? And also, please, if you haven't reviewed your shoe or given us a rating, you can do one or the other this week. Give us a rating and a review on iTunes. Or go to letsrun.com/shoes. And you can review a shoe for us. We'd really appreciate that. And you can also save money. Type in your favorite shoe, find the lowest price on it, and buy it from our partners. But until next week, John, enjoy the pre-classic. Weldon Johnson signing off.